I get those goosebumps every time.
I just have to get the big fella off the bench.
Could this be their last chance now? In it comes, Monson to the front. He scored! Harry Monson scored!
I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too numb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need that line to throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713, could've 21, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm hiding. I'm slipping low-key. I'm slipping low-key and hiding. It's my rider. I get those goosebumps every time. You come around, yeah. You ease my mind. You make everything feel fine. Worry about those times. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype.
Welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC. Hope everyone's well. We're here for the Shawn Show, the fully loaded transfer show with Shawn Casey. He's back with us. Popular guest, popular in some parts, not so popular in other parts. But no matter what, everyone will tune in just to see what Shawn has got to say, or to quote him again at a later date. They'll come back to bite him. But as he's laughing in the green room. Right, Pete, how are you?
Not too bad. I'm starting to feel better, but like this, I'm trying to get this crap off my chest. So if I'm like, if I'm on mute and I'm like coughing away in the background, you know why. I just need to get rid of this rubbish. But other than that, good. Buzzing to back on again, buzzing to have the main man come on and chat with us to get the lowdown on all things transfers. You know what? I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit excited about January now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You know, now we gave two fingers to the Premier League and the other what was it, 12, 13, 12, whatever it was, the other 12 clubs. I'm excited about it, and I do think we will sign players. So, let the good times roll.
Well, we better. The amount of people that crammed into that poster behind all of us there, we better sign someone. Probably be no one from that list, but hey, we had to start somewhere. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, really good. As I said to you the other day, it's nice to be back. I think I suffered with a little bit of the same as Pete, but I'm probably a little bit further on, so I'm feeling like 95, 96% now. So yeah, I'm nearly fully recovered. But yeah, I'm all good, mate. And yeah, really looking forward to having Shawn on tonight and talking all things transfers, because I know we kind of snuck into it the other day a little bit, didn't we? And the show kind of went more transfer related. But this is the first proper transfer show we've had since the summer. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Maybe not, because we had Graham Bailey on as well, and we were going to go with the Q&A, and then we changed it up and we got Graham, and Graham gave us some insights as well. So it was interesting. But okay,
second show.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even December. Never mind January.
No.
But let's get this man on. He goes with the catchphrase. Like I said, back on our screens again. Here's Shawn Casey.
Hello,
Shawn.
How are we, lads? See,
it's
actually early for a transfer show. And what Daz doesn't tell you, I actually had a Black Friday offer on, so I came on for €200 instead of usually $250. So that's the reason I'm on so early. So a Black Friday sale for Shawn Casey to appear on YouTube channels. It only applies to Loaded, but I wouldn't go on any of the other ones, to be honest with
you. We get you while we can, Shawn.
Exactly. Oh, are we all good?
We're all good, Shawn. And of course, you were doing some amount of prep work, as you were telling us off screen. And that you had to wipe off that whiteboard behind you because it was full of info. Just to don't want to give away everything.
This is obviously my mom's basement, you know, as much people would fucking say, because that's where I usually do most of my tweeting from. So this whiteboard was full earlier, yeah. All the names I could make up and reasons why and why not. So I had to rub it out really quick before the podcast. So yeah, prep work is done. Let's talk nonsense, you know.
Let's get into it. Now,
Yeah, where
I
do we
don't know
start?
where will we start. I asked you the same question. Where would you like to start? And you said, I don't mind. We'll see how the conversation goes. Let's talk. Go on, Pete. You had a suggestion.
I
Go
was
for
going
it.
to say,
Saudi?
oh yeah. We talked about last night the vote, and we talked about the vote going our way. So why don't I get your thoughts on it, Sean? Your thoughts on the vote, the Premier League vote. Did you expect it to go in our favour? And in your opinion, what does it mean now for Newcastle?
I think this is the clearest indication that we got that the Big Six is gone. You know, because like this 6-14 rule was originally brought in by the Big Six because they would always say that they have each other's back. You know what you would have seen and kind of what the rumors are from previous Premier League meetings. You know, you're talking the sponsorship deal, the sponsorship ruling, and now the related clubs. You're seeing Newcastle, Chelsea, and Man City stand together. You're seeing the historical three, which is you have Manchester United, you have Liverpool and Arsenal are standing together. Spurs are kind of in a little bit of limbo because they don't really they fall between two stools at the moment. And then you have the other 13. I think as we start to see the Premier League develop, Chelsea will continue to throw money at it. You know, that's what he's always done. They have the back and the money is there, and they're very clever how they do it. They have a good manager in place, and you will see Pochettino turn things around, and they will challenge the top side of the table. I think what we'll see over the next couple of years is we'll see it become a big three. You'll see Newcastle, you'll see Manchester, or you'll see Newcastle, you'll see Man City, and you'll see Chelsea financially become powerhouses because the likes of Aston Villa and stuff now that are there and thereabouts. If they miss out in Champions League or even Champions League or Europe this season, financially they're in a very bad position. They're still being kept afloat with the Grealish money. You know, so those clubs that are kind of snapping at the heels, they just don't have the money to sustain it. Whereas Newcastle do, obviously. Look like we have the Adidas sponsorship coming on board. There's another big sponsorship as well in the pipeline with some media group. So there's a lot of stuff still to happen there. And we're the ones that are set up for success. It'll take us a little bit longer. But you look at Arsenal, you know, the American backers, they're going to want to see that club become self-sustainable. You know, they won't continue to pump money in without money coming back. You know, so they would look to sell players to raise that money, you know, whether it's Gabriel Jesus going to Real Madrid in January or the summer, you know, transfers along the lines of that. And the same with Liverpool, you know. Liverpool were bailed out by the Saudi League massively because if they didn't get that money from the Saudi League, they wouldn't have made the transfers they made. You know, so like the Sabbathside transfer, they got a loan they actually got a loan to cover the upfront fee of that deal last minute. And that's how they facilitated that deal. And it probably come out in a year or so when they do their returns or whichever like that. But they actually had to get a loan through the Sabbathside deal because they had deals to Saudi in the pipeline. So that's not always going to be there either because Saudi aren't going to continue to spend at that level. They will start to boost the youth systems and stuff like that, and they will try to get to meet in the middle. And then you have Manchester United. What's going on there? You know, like they didn't get their dream takeover, the oil money. So now Ineos is coming in. What are they going to be like as owners? Are they going to pump the money in? They have to keep the Glazers there because the way that Manchester United is set up is that they're basically set up as two separate entities in the sense of how they measure their debts and stuff like that. They're almost like you actually can't penalize them through financial fair play because they can offset their debt against the Glazers companies. Like, so they can't be measured by FFP. They're almost immune to the rules as such. Like, so if you're looking to change any rule, you should be looking how Manchester United ran. So that's why you'll never see the Glazers sell 100%, the likes of a Jim Radcliffe or something like that. It's because how they're set up. It's so complicated how they would actually dilute that debt that they have and not have a negative impact on the club when selling it. This Sheikh Jazim stuff was all a lot of nonsense. You know, there's a lot of people saying that they never actually met in person and it was a bit of a kind of a driver to see Jim Ratcliffe kind of bump up the money. Like, but they'll forever be under the ownership of the Glazers. Jim Ratcliffe is just going to be a face for the fans doing something different for a year or two, you know, but they'll make more mistakes in the transfer market. They always do. So kind of getting back to the voting, did I see it going in our favour? I think the club probably would have hoped that it didn't. You know, as stupid as that might sound now, but I would have put out a tweet about it. And if it went against us, legally they could have challenged the ruling. brought through court of law, and then if in a court of law, if they say black is black, white is white, they can make these transfers because of this, this, and this, and they would have benchmarked against something else, then the rule can never change again. Like that rule is set in stone by a court of law, because that's where they would have taken it to, and it would have taken it kind of out from the Premier League. So the fact that I'd say the club would have wanted to see it go against them, challenge it, because they were told that if they challenge it, they have more of a barrel, and then change that rule forever. Same with the sponsorship as well. They're bringing in an independent regulator, which is going to fall under the government, right? So yet the government will oversee everything that happens in the Premier League. So, for example, if they're saying that, say, if Salah come in and if they offer 25 million and somebody else comes in and offers 10 million, they have to go to the happy medium. Under the government, what other agency is controlled like that? You're talking the housing market. Is that how houses are sold? Is that how cars are sold? Is this how people buy cars and houses? It's not. So you'll have to benchmark it across the board. Once the independent regulator becomes in, you'll see the government get a lot more involved in the Premier League, and that's when they're going to start losing control. And when that happens, all this benchmarking of like sponsorships and all this kind of stuff becomes absolute nonsense. So they've put the brakes on it a little bit, but they can't stop us. Like, we're just too powerful, and the money we have behind us is just too strong. Like, so they're putting little things in place to trip us up, but you're talking a wooden dam, like, it's going to break down.
If they put the blocker on it again, though, like later on down the line, could that challenge not go in then?
Absolutely, yeah. Like this is very much focused with the January transfer window in mind. But again, it made absolutely no sense. There was so much panic behind it as well, because if we bring in Ruben Neves, right, that means he waives his right to being tax-free for the 2 years in Saudi Arabia. Granted, there's probably clever ways around it, but if you bring in a player, right, from Saudi Arabia within their first 2 years, and if they receive payment from another club, right, that means that they've breaking their tax break of 2 years doesn't come into effect. It only comes into effect at the end of the 2 years. So you're talking, how could you justify that for a player to come to Newcastle, lose his tax breaks, which is, for example, say even if it's 40%, you bought 130 grand or whichever of his wages, to come to Newcastle on loan for 6 months? We're not going to pay the 40 million from him. So it made absolutely no sense from the start, so I can't
just
see
challenge that, Sean, because this came up in our show the other night. I know a couple of people had it in the comments, and like the way I see it, but I don't know the legal implications here. But if a player did go to Newcastle on loan for 6 months, they're still technically employed by the club in Saudi. So they're not breaking any rule there. And if you know who makes the rules in Saudi, I'm sure they could be tweaked as well.
But see, it's like, okay, they're still registered with that club in Saudi, but they're receiving a wage from Newcastle. We won't be allowed to take them in getting 350 grand. That's where fair market value comes into effect. There's never been, like, fair market value can be applied to wages and it can be applied to transfer fees. You can't get in a player for 350 grand from a sister club, you'd say, and not pay anything towards it. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't be right. It'd be challenged and they'd lose, and I wouldn't want that to happen. Outside of being a Newcastle fan, it's just the fairness of football. I'd want us getting in players from Saudi like that and 350 grand a week and we're not paying it. It's something that I wouldn't want to see happen at any other club. No, what does change that is with this related party transfers, if Newcastle do decide, or PFI do decide to bring in Newcastle under the umbrella and have the multi-club model including Newcastle, because at the moment it's the 4 Saudi clubs, not including Newcastle, right? Now if they include Newcastle under the umbrella and create 5, then the movements between the clubs become a lot different. Because they're all under one ownership, you're moving pawns into different places, and then it becomes a different system. How that implicates, I don't know. What I would see is, I think what you will see in the future is Newcastle will become part of this 5, right? The Saudi League now, PIF are actively looking in the likes of South Africa. I think Sadio Mane has an academy starting there and stuff like this. They're actively looking in the likes of South Africa, Brazil, these countries that has untapped potential, and they're looking at bringing in the 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, getting them into the youth systems and starting to meet get your Benzemas at the top level, and then get your world-class young players, like, you know, your 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds from your African countries and your Brazil and wherever in South America, and then meet in the middle. And that's what they're going to create their success. But now if they start bringing in the best of young Brazilian talent, you know, your Marcus Leandros and all these fellas, and we're all under one club, the movements are a lot easier, you know. So I think in about a year or 2 years' time, you will start to see them bring in the youth players, and they will start to feed the youth players in through Newcastle, you know, and that will be how we will create that multi-club model in, and PAF will be more sufficient for us in that sense.
Do you think they're waiting for do you think you're on both sides really? Do you think they're waiting for the Saudi clubs to become bigger, more established names as individual clubs, or do you think they're waiting for, or equally, and are they waiting for Newcastle to become bigger so it becomes more of a powerhouse kind of unit to come together at once? Because that would, in my opinion, if both sides got bigger and then they brought them together, that would be more of a sort of a powerhouse move that would get more attention, because ultimately they want the attention because they want people's eyes on what Saudi are doing, football related.
But see, I think Pete, I think they're waiting more for the youth systems to come in line. You know, that kind of they can move more freely kind of through academy and youth systems, and I think that's where we're going to see the benefit. You know, we're going to see the benefit in the movement of youth players. You know, and as Saudi gets set up better, to kind of their academies get set up better, and they bring everything online, I think that we then will start to see it become a powerhouse. But for now, I think they want to understand what the Premier League's rules are going to be. You know, and much like 2 days ago, what we've seen with the ruling and stuff like that, I think they want to see more of this, and they want to see something more set in stone. And when this independent regulator does come in, to actually sit down and have a conversation and see how they're actually going to tease all this out. Because anything that they put in place, once they start kind of sitting with the independent regulator, and they start understanding where it is, they can start moving them, because anything that they do try, they get it pushed over the line legally anyway, because kind of what the Premier League are doing, it's not competitive, it's anti-competitive, and they won't get away with that for too long. I think they're waiting for the academies to line up, for Saudi to kind of bring its level up in that sense, and then we start to see youth players probably move more freely, rather than the likes of your Benzemas and Neves and all these people.
So, Sean, are you...
Oh, sorry, Daz. I was just going to ask 2 dead quick questions. In fact, Daz, you go first, because I've got a couple of questions for Sean. But
just from what you said, Sean, are you ruling out any big name player coming from Saudi to Newcastle this January?
I wouldn't 100% no, because I think they could move for somebody like Laporte or something like that if they got really stuck. That lever is there for them to pull, and they will contest it if they have to. If you're bringing in Laporte or someone like that, or even a Neves, they can do it. I wouldn't rule it out, but it makes absolutely no sense from both sides to do it, because financial fair play alone, I think I worked out the figures which I sent on to Pete there recently. Neves would probably cost you between 12 and 14 million straight off your financial fair play figures in a 6-month period, because a loan, wages and the loan fee comes straight out. It doesn't get balanced over the 5-6 years or whichever. So financially it makes no sense. The club hasn't done anything to date that would tell you that they're looking at short-term victories. So can you rule it out? I wouldn't rule it out 100%, because you never know what position they're going to be in the last week of the transfer window, or what can happen over there. But I don't see the sense in it, and I haven't seen them make many moves so far that make no sense. Can you see the sense in it?
No.
Yes, we spent an hour talking about it there the other day.
It all depends on the need, like you said. If needs must, so a Laporte, for example, left-sided centre back comes in. If Botman, you don't see him until February. It makes sense, because we need a player that's ready to go there and then. So, it doesn't make sense if everything's hunky-dory and we're looking to build and get 1 or 2 players in that could take us to the next level and really give us a proper kick on. It doesn't really make sense then, because you'll be looking more long term. But actually, if needs must, if we pick up any more injuries or if we lose a Bruno Guimaraes, fingers crossed, touch wood, we don't do that. But if we do, we need that option open for Saudi where we could go and get a ready-made player. We kind of joked about. I mean, everyone's talking about Ruben Neves. I find it really interesting. Everyone talked about Ruben Neves. Every paper, every article had Ruben Neves' picture with wearing that shirt and Newcastle's name attached to it. And then very, very quickly, when the ruling changed and it didn't get passed through, it was, let's not just talk about Newcastle. Let's talk about Forest. Let's talk about Palace and Leon. And it was like, okay, now you're willing to talk about all the other clubs, but you wanted to slap Newcastle's name to it. And you wanted to slap Ruben Neves' his name to it. Ruben Neves makes sense. He's 26 years old. He's a player that's got huge potential. But we talked about Frank Casey like as another option. Fabinho, imagine a Fume picking up Fabinho from over in Saudi with the Liverpool fans. They would kick off.
But if you look at how it played out, right, you're talking about 3 or 4 days before this breaking news came out. Ruben Neves' name was everywhere, and then all of a sudden it's like related party transaction or transfers can't happen, all this kind of stuff. It was a plug, like, you know, and that was the story to run with. They placed Ruben Neves perfectly because they knew about this coming weeks in advance. It wasn't this big breaking news story. They knew they had to plug a player that was going to sell, and it sold like wildfire. Like, it was excellent. They placed it perfectly, like, and everybody bought into the Ruben Neves thing. And then the day after the ruling went through, almost every journalist ruled out Ruben Neves to Newcastle. It's crazy, like, isn't it? You know, but like, look, they have to earn a living too, and that's what they do, you know. But it's I just don't like when you see what happened with Everton. I think it's a big warning of we cannot make any mistakes. Sandro Tonali is a mistake at the moment. I don't think it's a mistake of a transfer, but that's a big write-off there that we have this year on him, you know, and we're not getting anything for it. So they have to be very, very strategical about how they approach this next, because we cannot afford within the next, say, 2 or 3 years, because we're still building that commercial base, we cannot afford to make any more mistakes in the transfer market, you know. And I suppose that kind of leans into transfers, you know, like you're talking Eddie Howe, and it just seems a bit too loose at the moment for me with Calvin Phillips. I've heard it from excellent sources, people very close to recruitment team and journalists in around the club and stuff like that, that Calvin Phillips is openly talked about as being very close to being a Newcastle player. Like, you know, it's the one that Eddie Howe wants, and that's it. But I'm thinking, okay, Howe wants him. Give it to 6 months, makes a lot of sense. You know, he drops into the 6th position, protects the back 4. His defensive numbers are crazy. You know, you get to push Bruno Guimaraes further forward. That's where he wants to play. Adds a lot of options. You know, the experience is there. But there's also a reason why Guardiola wants him out of the club and he won't touch him. He's paying Rico Lewis in his position for a reason. There's a backstory there with Phillips that I'm not going to talk about here because it's something else. But he's somebody that could end up fairly deep in shit in the papers very soon as well. You know, and it's something that Guardiola knows about and he doesn't like, and that's why he has no interest in him as a player or a person. You know, so with Phillips, it's somebody that people are telling me about the last 6-7 weeks that Howe wants him. He's the one name that he keeps on asking for. Then you walk back from that. It's kind of a case of, do they bring in Kevin Phillips and Adam Wharton from Blackburn? You know, you have that experience, you have that young player. He's somebody that's very highly thought of. So kind of domestically, they're 2 players that they're looking at. Phillips is the one that Howe wants. He's his number 1 target. But then the scouting team are pushing Fofana from Monaco. You know, 1.5 years left on his deal. Starts for France.
My heart went then. I thought you were about the other Fofana.
Which one?
The second Fofana. I was like,
oh. But you have like Fofana. He starts for France. He's the future anchor of the French team. You know, the scouts are pushing him very hard. You know, he's somebody that they're watching a lot. They're watching Vorman as well, the young Belgian player, and Kone obviously is somebody that they're kind of keeping a passing brief on. So it's like we're navigating through a very tricky injury crisis at the moment because we have that flexibility on players. But I sat there watching the Bournemouth game thinking, fucking hell, Calvin Phillips would be ideal in this game, because every single time we had the ball, we skipped the pass. You know, like Lewis Miley showed every single time for the pass and they skipped him. They wouldn't give him that pass, and that's the pass. Like if you watch it, you know, Trippier will have the ball, or you'll have either Willock or Joelinton or something. They'll receive the ball, they'll pass back to Guimaraes, they'll get turned, and then they get the ball on the run. Against Bournemouth, the ball was going back or it was going straight into feet. Willock had his back to goal, Joelinton had his back to goal, Gordon did. These players are no good with their back to goal because they were missing that Bruno Guimaraes pass. Calvin Phillips makes that pass every day. How press resistant is he? I haven't seen him for long enough. I suppose you're talking Leeds was a different system, but if we had Calvin Phillips against Bournemouth, we would have won that game. That's what I could probably see his thinking, because when you skip that pass, you put players under pressure and they were able to press us way too easy. You know, the next player in that I'm hearing, and it's kind of, I suppose when you talk about it age-wise, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but like Joachim Anderson, heard a lot about it in the summer. And again, I actually tweeted about it during the summer, and there was a Crystal Palace account fucking came down on me like a ton of bricks, and this is why it won't happen in Newcastle, this, that, and the other. We end up kind of back and forth in DMs and stuff like that, because he had heard a rumor, just wondering where I got it from and stuff. And he would have reached out to me about 3 weeks ago, and he was saying the talk around Palace is that Anderson has his head turned and Newcastle want them, and it's something that they're looking at for January. They want to bring in a striker, they want to get money in, and Anderson is someone that's highly liked by Newcastle and something that could definitely happen. You look at that, and people will say, why Joachim Anderson? So give me a centre-back that's good in the air, right? Well, fucking phenomenal in the air, really. Excellent passing ability. He's not rocket fast, but he's quick. Give me somebody with his skill set and experience that could come in and replace Fabian Schär. You end up with nobody. You know, like if you bring in, right, you also have to think of Dan Burn is going to be out of the team, right? Think of the start of next season, right? You have your back four. If your back four starts the start of next season, Lewis Hall at left back, Sven Botman, say Tobido, for example, and you have, say, Livramento, right, for example, starting right back. Where's your experience? You're signing fantastic players, but you have zero experience, right? Now, where's your heading ability? Something that we're excellent on the hoe. You know, Dan Burn has taken out the team because we need to replace him with a more attacking left back. I love Dan Burn, but part of the progression is that he will come out of the team. So Dan Burn comes out of the team, you have Dan Burn and you have Tobido, for example, who's not great in the air. So now you have a back four with only one person that can hit the ball. Do you get me? So, like, when you're doing it, you have to think of the full matrix of how it happens. When you think of it like that, now bring Joachim Anderson into the team, you think, now I know why. You know, Botman and Anderson makes a lot more sense. Whereas if you team up Botman and Silva, huge potential, but experience, very rash. You've seen it in the Champions League. He panics a bit. He's not great in the air. He's not ready for that step yet, I don't think, to actually be a leading centre back for a club like Newcastle and where we're going. You know, I think he'll probably go into a club like Real Madrid and be brought into the team slowly. We'll need somebody that can replace Fabian Schär to start next season. And the natural progression, I think, would be bring in Anderson and bring in somebody young then underneath him. Is that making sense?
Yeah, making sense. But you've kind of ruined Christmas there, Grinch, with the shitting all over the Saudi links, and now you're giving us Anderson instead of someone like this guy. What's man Diamande or even Antonio Silva? Exactly. Where are they gone? I know they cost big money, but
like they're watching these players, but we cannot afford to make a mistake. We need to sign players now that can bridge this 2-3 year gap to make us a steady top 6 team. You know, like you bring in Silva and he flops. You know, unlikely, but he's not great in the air. His leadership qualities have been questioned this year. A couple of clubs that are scouting him have kind of stepped back a bit. I know we've stepped back a little bit from it. And Diamandi, the same. He's only 19 years of age, a bit rash. His heading ability isn't great. You know, so I think if Fabian Schär was 3 years younger, right, I think we would make that move then. The problem with Newcastle at the moment is that our experienced players aren't good enough to challenge for where we are. Schär is excellent, don't get me wrong, but like Lascelles has played well, but he's not at that level. You have like our experienced players at the moment there, say Lascelles, Dummett, Matt Ritchie, say Kraft, for example, right? Those 4 are gone in the summer, right? Now you start bringing in young players. You want to bring in the likes of a Fofana, Silva. You end up starting next season, and then if they bring in that goalkeeper, and I'm going to try and pronounce his name for Valencia, right? You have a 24-year-old goalkeeper. Yeah, so like you look at it, like the average age of your back four ends up being about 22, and then you have somebody like Fofana in midfield, who is also very young. Then you have Isaiah Gordon, and you have maybe another younger player coming in. You lose that experience value very, very quick. So that's why I think they will look. What they have to do is they have to keep the experience level, right, with players that are tried and tested in the Premier League, while also bringing down the age of the squad, which is a very strange position to be in. We're almost at a reset phase again, where our experienced players aren't good enough for where we are. And the young players are just too young, and there's too much of a high risk value there.
This was always going to come, though. This was always going to come.
We spoke about this.
we did. We even going back 2 years, like we spoke about this. These players were going to be so difficult to get out. We wanted them every window. Chris, Daz, Shawn, when we talked on our show, what we always say on our squad games: Richie gone, Hendrick gone, Dummett gone. All these players you want gone, but it's not easy. No team wants to pay the wages that they're on. They're on contracts that are slowly dwindling down. Like you said, Shawn, a lot of them are running out, and it's hard to replace that leadership. And to be fair, we talked about it last night. We had a brief chat about it, but you've made a really good point, Shawn, in that we have to, at some point. It's great looking at young players with potential. It was great getting Lewis Hall in. He's going to be a great player. Yes, he's not played a lot of football right now, but we have to remember, and we talked about it on away days last night, he never had a pre-season under Poch. Poch didn't want him. He didn't want him at Chelsea. Like, he wasn't even involved in any pre-season. So he's playing catch-up, which is why you've not seen him play as much football right now. He will come good, no doubt about it. Tino Livramento, people are now starting to see why we paid the money, but we talked about it in the summer. But you can only buy young players for so long. And you've just said it, bridging the gap. We've now got Champions League. We're playing in the Champions League. We're in it. And Newcastle fans, everyone in this chat right now, they're smelling Champions League and they're going to be thinking, I want more of this. I want more of these days. I want more of these big games. And the only way to do that is to bridge the gap. And it's Joachim Andersen. To be fair, we've spoken about this, Shawn, haven't we? Like, and
we've in a lot of detail.
I question the signing. I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
My big question mark is what is the fee that gets him in? I'm not concerned about him coming in. I think he's a terrific signing if we get him. I'm more concerned about the fee. We've got D, who's a Palace fan, who comes on our channel and all various, and he's quoting Mark Gay and Joachim Andersen at 60 million plus, and I'm just like, there's no way at 27 years old he's worth 60 million. Like, he just.
I'd say realistically, you're probably talking about the 40 million mark. And I think if they push for anything more than that, we're not going to get him. And then we do have to look at a reset, but like, you're talking 40 million there to get your Champions League again, as much as I know you will see a lot of things about they're not going to buy players for the moment and stuff like that. That's fair enough, but I think Howe will probably be made to choose between either Phillips or Anderson because of their age. And he'll probably have to pick one and then probably concede defeat and bring in somebody younger. But if he had his wish in the morning, he'd bring in Anderson and Phillips, and he believes that will get us Champions League football. What I will say is I do believe that there is somebody that they pushed very hard for in the summer, right? That they were going to revisit next summer that might become available in January. That would be a signing along the lines of a Botman Isaac level that could shock people. And I think it's more the fact that the fee and the way that the club are going to structure the transfer falls into our position very well. What people have to understand is that if we have 30 million to say if our budget is 30 million in January, roughly, you can sign a 70 million pound player on that. because they might only want a 10 million upfront fee. So when you talk about budget, you talk about ready-made cash that you can actually put a deposit on a player with, that you can buy that player with. That's your down payment almost, so you don't have to be cash rich to actually make big transfers in January. You just have to have a club that's willing to work with you. I believe that we could get very, very close to an Anthony Gordon level signing, if not higher, as in, like, I know you're talking Anderson is around the same fee, but I'm talking about excitement levels. Top young footballer that will really grab people's attention. I'm told that they're working on a deal along the lines of that.
Are you able?
No, not now.
No, not name.
Yeah.
Just maybe where they situate themselves on the pitch is maybe what I'm looking at as a potential. If you can't, you can't. That's fine. But
not right now. Not right now.
Okay.
I'm not 100%. I'm being honest with you. I'm not 100% sure myself. I've actually had it from over the last 2 weeks. I'd say I've had it from about 3 or 4 different people that are in around it, and it's kind of varying. So I'm kind of like, they're hearing something. It feels very like the time with Isaac. Remember, I kept on saying to Pete, I was like, there's something happening. There's something happening. There's something big. They're purposely leaking Tony to the media. They're purposely leaking this player. They're covering something up. This feels very like that. It feels like they are pushing Phillips way too hard behind the scenes. It's almost like they're just briefing everybody. And that to me doesn't sound like the club, and that's why I have a little bit of caution around it. Like, it's too open-ended, like, it's like, yeah, we want Calvin Phillips, like, which is something that we don't do anymore, so it'll be interesting. Maybe it is somebody like Fofana or some blockbuster of a centre midfielder along the lines of that they go.
It reminds me of, like, when Kieran Trippier came in, and we're in a different moment there. Like, Kieran Trippier, we were already talking about him already being in the team in January because we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was done, and it just feel like that. But you're right. Like, we've been operating so differently that we just don't expect it to be.
It feels like
knowledge.
It feels like the Kieran Tierney transfer from the summer. Everybody was being told about it. Like, like, and that's what Calvin Phillips feels like at the moment. Like, I do think the transfer makes a lot of sense, and it would definitely bridge a gap. There's no doubt in the kid's talent. Like, he hasn't played in a while, but it just feels like there's too much information on it. Like,
just what you've said, you're not going to talk about it. The story that you were alluding to, whatever it might be, but surely if the club would have a notion of that as well, and they would rule him out straight away, whatever the case. They don't want to have another bad press situation after the whole Tonali saga. So, in that sense, do you think Phillips that would rule him out? Is that what you're saying? Your feeling is on that one?
That's Pete. I would have sent it on to you about 3 weeks ago. I'd say I would have said I don't think it's going to happen because of this. Everybody's telling me it's going to happen, but just my personal opinion, I'm ruling out based on that, and just because too many people are telling me. And that's it. It's kind of like it's too much in the news, like, so I'm kind of taking a backseat on it. Maybe it does happen, like I will say, Danny, they're like excellent sources, like always close to the truth, and he's saying that they have a deal in place with an obligation. I wouldn't really go against his information. I'm just hearing it from too many people at the moment, So it's an interesting one, but I will say that I do know Anderson is definitely in on the top level, because if you actually break it down, I can't pick a better centre half than him for us right now. I really can't. Like, and I know you say to people, I've had this conversation so many times with people. I was there last week, and I was actually going into the garage, and there was a fella who was like, "Are you Shawn?" I was like, yeah, chatting away and stuff. And he goes, "How would you rate Anderson?" And we had a conversation about fucking 30 minutes. I ended up nearly being late for work about it. And he was like, yeah, no, I see it. No, I understand it. Like, so it's kind of when you actually sit down and actually digest it and see where we are, he makes a lot of sense. Like,
what doesn't make sense to me is that 40 million figure, I have to say. And I know what you're saying. You're getting Premier League experience, but someone at 27, as I put up the two lads earlier, like, this guy has a 70 million release clause or something like that, and Antonio Silva is but no, they're not going to pay those kind of figures. But you if you go 50, even 55 million. It'd be worth it to me. It'd be worth it. I know I'm coming from a
what have they done though? Like, they've done nothing. Like, you're talking, right, with 70 million, right? You're putting 70 million down on potential, right? with Anderson, you're putting 40 million down on the package. He's finished. He's not going to get much slower. He can read the game excellently, phenomenal in the air. His aerial ability won't go. His passing ability won't go. He plays the game with his head. He reads it so well. You know, he's probably only going to get better under Eddie Howe. You know, so like, for me, he's a no-brainer. I'm absolutely sold on it. Now, trying to get him out of Palace in January might be a different story, but there's a lot of change needs to happen, and there's a lot of players need to be replaced. You know, so to make that shift, we need to do it with the likes of an Anderson and stuff like that, because you put a Silva in there, in at the deep end, he has a rough start, maybe doesn't settle a bit, and then he's playing in the back four with Botman, who's 23, Livramento 21, Hall 19, and a new goalkeeper. Say if Pope does get replaced, that changes the dynamic totally. You know, he has nobody putting his arm around him. Sven Botman has been excellent because he sat between Dan Byrne, who has experience at football at every level, absolute fountain of experience, and Fabian Schär next to him, who's played in 3 different leagues, played in the Champions League, all the experience in the world. He was babysat by those 2 experienced players. You know, bringing somebody else in now, young, to replace Schär would be criminal, I'd say. You know, I was all for the names and stuff like that, but I just can't apply the logic to it.
For any Newcastle fan, and rightly so, to be fair, because we talked about it after the Palace game. Like, Anderson wasn't good at St James's Park. Like, he actually surprised me. He was dreadful. But it was just one game. He's had actually a really good season.
But if you look
really well,
if you look at that game, you know, I actually watched that game and I purposely watched it, just watching Palace, how they set up and stuff like that. You know, like, Edouard wasn't part of the game. You know, that made Mitchell push up a little bit higher, trying to close the space. Mark Guy got massively pulled out of position. Diacor was, Jesus Christ, he might have been sat in the Gallowgate. He had absolutely no position. A lot of times, Anderson was actually by himself in that position. He didn't play great, but how many times under Steve Bruce did we watch Fabian Schär have an absolute stinker? You know, it happens. Like, you know, systems create players, managers create players. That was a system breakdown. I wouldn't say, granted, he had a bad game, but I think it was more of a system breakdown rather than his performance. You know, that whole team looked average when you're talking like Marcoy, Diacor. These players have been touted 80, 90, 100 million pound players. They looked like passengers in that game. They just got completely overwhelmed and overrun, and they stopped playing.
Chris, I'm mindful that we've literally gone in a complete different direction. You had a couple of questions.
Go for Chris.
Yeah, no. I actually had 2 questions, but I got 3 because something you said, Sean. I thought actually that's really interesting. What I wanted to ask, I'll whiz the 3 through. They're not long ones. It's just kind of your opinion, really. But you mentioned that it wouldn't make sense for the Neves deal, you know, because it's a loan, and obviously, you know, you'd have to pay the 14 million and stuff. And it just got me thinking. Do you know if that applies? The same thing applies for the Lewis Hall deal, because obviously he's a loan with an obligation. But is that classed as a permanent deal? So that was my first question. My second question was, I found it really interesting since, you know, these Saudi clubs have come to prominence, how they've all signed 4 or 5 players, but they've not gone all in and just replaced the team, or, you know, sign like, you know, another 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So I wanted to ask, do you see Saudi going in and buying even more big players and bringing them to the league? And then my third and final question was, which it was relevant about 20 minutes ago when we were talking, but I just wondered if, to get your thoughts on FFP as a whole, you know, now that we've seen this 10-point fine for Everton, and, you know, the Premier League kind of clamping down, do you think this has implications going forward for FFP? And do you see them kind of loosening things a little bit?
See, I think so with Lewis Hall, it kind of falls into a different category, because I think his obligation kicked in after a handful of games. So, like, there's nothing really to quiz there. It's a permanent transfer that will fall into the category probably of next season. So we'll go against next season's financial figures. You're talking the next one then with Saudi. Do I see him go all in? There's no stopping them. I think they will have crazy investment over the next 2 years, and then they'll have to start meeting in the middle, where you can't keep on buying these players. You know, these players are loving life over in Saudi Arabia because, like, you have like every day there's reports of fellas getting robbed and this, that, and the other. You know, players can't go out, wear watches, can't drive certain cars in around London. They're almost like prisoners because you can't show your wealth in case you get robbed. You know, it's gone crazy there. So they're over in Saudi Arabia and they're living the life. They can go out, they can do what they want. You know, there is no hiding. You know, it's
Fabinho was getting their Rolexes off fans, wasn't he, when he just finished the game? Like a
you know,
fan
so
gave him a Rolex.
it's a different world over there, like, and it's not what people think it is. Like, I don't think people have realized how much the Middle East has evolved. Like, you know, people still think it's the Stone Age, like that fellas are going around place on camels, like, where it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, living in Saudi Arabia versus living in London, you probably choose Saudi Arabia 9 times out of 10. You know, and the last question was FFP.
FFP, yeah.
Yeah, so like, it's really the wage bill that's catching us, and that's why you can't see like the likes of Lascelles, Richie, and Dummett and stuff like that. Emil Kraft, you know, on maybe 55 grand a week. You know, like, that's why you see these players go, because we just need that wage capacity. It's more the wage capacity that's catching us rather than actually having the money to spend, because, you know, you can have investment equity. There's so many ways around creating money to spend. It's just our wage capacity isn't there at the moment. The club just isn't on that level. So as soon as when our commercial portfolio grows, the wage will be able to grow, and then the players will be coming. You know, so we will find ways around FFP, but it is getting very strict, and there isn't ways to cheat it. But we can sponsor absolutely everything at this stage, you know, like, and that's the stage they're going to get to. Like, we still have stadium sponsorship to come through. The Adidas sponsorship's obviously coming. There's training ground sponsorship to come through. There's so much stuff in the pipeline, and that we're a Champions League club now. And if we get close, we'll even get Champions League next year. That creates a whole different world for us, you know.
Yeah.
Shawn, maybe I'll take it in a slightly different direction and just move further up the pitch. We'll talk about strikers and attackers potentially, and throw a few names at you as well, and just see what your thoughts on them. The first one I'm going to go with is Ferran Torres.
Yeah, so they've actually looked at Torres extensively. He's been offered to the club. He's probably been offered to almost every club now. But the thing is, and I know I put it up the other day saying they've done background checks, and it was kind of like, what background checks? He wanted to go back to Spain. It's not that simple. He engineered the move himself. You know, he actually sought out that move to Barcelona, you know, and he wanted to get out of England as soon as possible. So again, you know, we don't have that financial freedom where we can bring him in, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, I know Jamie Carragher today was criticizing us for not checking if fucking Sandro Tonali had a Paddy Power app, like, but they have to do these checks now with Torres. Like, and they have to understand of, was he homesick? You know, what was the story behind him going? But they're definitely looking at him. Yeah. They have looked at him. They've done the background checks.
Interesting.
Good player.
Yeah, great player.
Yeah.
Excellent player. Probably the best hat trick I've ever seen at St. James's Park.
Yeah, superb.
Let's throw another name and see what your thoughts are. Marcus Leonardo.
Yeah, you know, I think there's absolutely no secret there. I would have put out his name there a couple of weeks ago. You know, he's definitely a player that they've looked at, but a lot of people saying that, oh, we're not investing in the Brazilian market, and how we won't bring in South American players. That couldn't be further from the truth. You know, you have Mateus Franco, who signed for Crystal Palace, who we tried to sign a couple of times. The problem wasn't the fee we were offering. It was that they wanted a 50% sell-on clause. You know, like a 50% sell-on clause is crazy. Like, you know, so like they wanted Santos, right? They wanted a Peroni that went to Man City, right? Peroni wanted a City move, right?
With him.
Right? Santos wanted a Chelsea move. We were in for him, you know, and Mateus Franca, all in on him, but they just wouldn't budge on that 50% sell-on clause, and it was either have the 50% sell-on clause or buy it out, which made the transfer even way higher. So again, with Marcus Leonardo, these deals are complicated because they will have a sell-on clause, like, and what that percentage is versus what you pay transfer money from has to make sense, like, you know. So is it a case of they want 20 million from, and you're thinking, geez, why don't they do that? Snap the hands off it, but then they're asking for 40-50% on a sell-on, and that's when it starts making no sense. You know, so that's where the gap is, I suppose, for people when they're seeing these transfer fees and wondering why we're not moving. It's just that the add-ons to the deal make no sense. You know, but yeah, the club are absolutely interested in him. Phenomenal talent, but again, the question is, will he impact the squad now? You know, I think we could possibly see a summer where we lose Callum Wilson as well.
Right, I could throw a few more striker names at you, or I could ask you, who do you think we would look at, or will we look towards a striking option in January?
I think we'll look at somebody in the mold of Alvarez at City, high pressing, you know, play across the front three, real aggressive player. I think that's what they're going to look at in that right hand space. You know, somebody like Victor Gariakis there that's at Lisbon. I know he's only a couple of months into his move and he won't move in January, but that's the profile of the player that they're looking at. You know, a lot of people would say, why didn't they sign him from Coventry? He turned down moves to, I think it was Villa, Everton, another couple of clubs were invited, and he was like, I want to go to Lisbon, I want to work under Ruben Amorim, and he's going to develop me. You know, Ivan Fresenda was the same, turned down multiple moves to work with Amorim at Sporting Lisbon. So it wasn't the case of people weren't interested in him, he just wanted that move. You probably won't see a cleaner ball striker than Gariakis. His pace, power, like he's just laces through the ball, old school, fucking Happy Gilmore shot, like, you know. But yeah, very much somebody in that profile, you know, and like, not to criticize the approach, but that's why I still don't understand the Harvey Barnes transfer. You know, great player, don't get me wrong, great player, but if you're taking Anthony Gordon out of the left wing position, you're doing him a disservice. I think Gordon has made that position his own, and Harvey Barnes has never played right wing. You know, Harvey Barnes.
Do you not think, Sean, that's why they signed him? I'm thinking now. I was buzzing with Harvey Barnes because I know what he's capable of. But I almost had, thinking about it now in hindsight, I'm thinking that I don't think Newcastle United expected for Gordon to have the season he's had. I think he bounced into this season with confidence, but the fact that they knew Maxi was going and they wanted a replacement for Maxi, I think it said almost that they didn't necessarily trust Gordon could be the man this season, but he has proven to be.
I think you could actually probably draw lines if you look at it really, like, you know, selling Maxi, bring in Harvey Barnes because he's proven in the Premier League, and you're buying that steady head, like, you know. You could almost say the same for the reasoning behind bringing in Anderson and not bringing in somebody too young.
Yeah.
They obviously went into the summer transfer window thinking, if we sell Maxi, we can't put all the onus on Gordon because he's so young. We need to bring Harvey Barnes in to bridge that gap as well. And then Gordon went into that position, made it his own, and now they're left there with Harvey Barnes. Don't get me wrong, Harvey Barnes will probably get you double figures, but does Gordon have the same influence on a right wing? I don't think, if you look back to his Bournemouth days, Eddie Howe lives for inverted wingers. Like, you know, it's all inverted wingers. Like, if you look back to Bournemouth, I went back through fucking formations and stuff like that, and different players and stuff like that. His thing is having inverted wingers. So he now has a headache where he has Barnes and Gordon, both of them play off the left, and both of them are more influential off the left. So where does Gordon go? Where does Barnes go? You know, and he needs to, like, a lot of talk is that Almiron is going to go back to the States in the summer. So they're going to need a replacement for Miguel Almiron as well. So you're going to have to put a left footer in there. Mente, he needs another season on loan. If anybody's watched him at Feyenoord, he's very, very, like, incredible on the ball, an absolute live wire. But I'd say if there wasn't a stand in his way, he'd go full Forrest Gump and run over the stadium with the ball. Like, you know, he'd get the head down and he's skin about 7 or 8 players. Next he realises he's nearly gone over the touchline. Like, he just needs to pass the ball. And it's a criticism that's coming out in the Dutch media and stuff like that about him as well, is that he never gets his head up. So he's at the very, very start of his learning curve. He won't be near that first team for another year or so, you know. And that's why you see his dribbling stats are so good. Like, again, you know, stats without context are just numbers, like, you know, and that's why you have to probably look at the context behind his numbers and why his stats are so high for dribbling, like, you know. But yeah, with attackers, you know, definitely very, very interesting. Gibbs White, you know, somebody that they absolutely love. And you know what, like, when you look at him, like, he's really multifaceted. Like, you know, he's like, I could see him playing as a pocket player. I could see him playing wide on the right. I could see him playing centre midfield in a 3 because he is press resistant. He's great on the ball. I could see him dropping into a Bruno position there. No problem. I know people are thinking this, and is he for fucking real? But if you look at him, the way he receives the ball, how he opens his body and gives himself a yard of space.
Yeah, big, strong, powerful.
We talked about him in the summer.
Yeah.
Chris, we had conversation after conversation after conversation, watched him in the Euros, but even last season, he's ready for a big move. You put 30 million top plus, 35 million on the table for Forest. He's going into Forest and saying, "I want the move."
They're quoting 60 from.
Like you probably need to pay more. Morgan Gibbs-White is right for Newcastle United. He has everything. You've just explained it. He has everything to be a top player, and he's performing so well in a Forest team that's not great.
No.
It's like we lack players. If you look at it, like we actually lack players that can receive the ball to the back with their back to goal. If you look at it, you probably only have Almiron is actually great at taking the ball with his back to goal. Gordon, not as good. You know, he likes being ready to move. Wilson can. Isaac isn't great at taking the ball with his back to goal. You would have seen that against the like AC Milan and stuff like that. He doesn't mean like being isolated like that. Joe Linton needs the ball on the run. Willock needs the ball on the run. You know, so or Morgan Gibbs-White gives us a totally different dynamic there. You know, he can receive the ball with his back to goal. You know, when I talk back to goal, you can still be at the halfway line and receive the ball with your back to goal. But I just think if I could pick a tailor-made player for Eddie Howe, he's the one I'd pick.
Very, very talented. Very, very talented. And he travels so well with the ball as well, doesn't he? He's big, strong, powerful, and he really drives the team forward an extra 10, 20 yards. And as Pete said, you know, he makes the difference for Forest. He's the one who, when you watch them, you go, who's that? And then you see it's Morgan Gibbs-White. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, and you have Timo Coopermeyers as well. Probably butchered the pronunciation there. But he's definitely somebody that they really like. You know, I seen there was links in the media. You know, he's definitely a player that they've looked at, you know, and he's again very versatile, can play in multiple positions and a nice fee available for him as well, like, you know, and he's definitely one that they've kept the passing kind of eye on. You look at it, like the scouts have been to a lot of Atlanta games and a lot of Valencia games, and they're briefing different names, you know, very much like they were at a lot of AC Milan games that season, and everything was that they were looking at Tomori when they were actually looking at Tonali. So if scouts get seen at games, they'll obviously give a different name. And with Valencia, they're giving the name of that. Like they've been to, I'd say probably 80% of the Valencia games, and they've been to a lot of the Macedonia, as it he plays for that goalkeeper, Georgia. You know, they've been to
the same team as KK.
Yeah.
Where,
and all the KK links are coming out.
KK again.
Yeah, but I think they're probably.
Mamardashvili he's a top goalkeeper. Like, and what I love about him, like, and it's a big question because we've talked about goalkeepers on this channel. And Chris, you mentioned, and I think Daz, you mentioned as well, you could see that Pope needs to kind of be replaced within the next year. I thought he'd maybe get another year. But if you get someone like Mamardashvili available from Valencia, you're getting a ready-made goalkeeper at 22. The only question mark I have on him is his ability on the ball. I don't know if it's what we kind of want, but what I love about him, he's got feather feet. I like to call it feather feet. Like, he's very quick. He's very quick off the line. He's very quick with his feet. His movements are very quick. He's very, very good at anticipating the board. He does all the things that Pope does, maybe not as tall as him, comes and collects, challenges, punches. He put himself in a difficult situation, and 9 times out of 10 will come out with the ball.
But more like a sweeper, Pete. He's more of a sweeper than Pope.
Sweeper keeper.
Yeah. But we have this obsession with them having to be as good on the ball, like your Edisons and your Allison to a point. He's maybe not as good as Edison, and Onana's really good on the ball, to be fair to him. But actually, Mamardashvili, he has a lot of the other traits that Pope has, but he's probably more mobile than him, and that's a good thing to have.
The thing is, like, and you know, I've actually asked about Costa as well, the Porto keeper who I've watched a lot.
He's good,
but
they make mistakes though.
They genuinely they feel like the trade-off is too much. You know, much like David Raya at Arsenal. Like, granted, he's good with his feet and stuff like that, reads the game well, but he's not imposing enough as a goalkeeper. And I think they've ruled him out because of that. Like, you know, that he does, like, they've watched a lot of Porto games and stuff like that, and they just don't feel like he imposes himself enough on the games. Eddie Howe wants a big fuck off fucking keeper that can absolutely dominate that box, a big powerhouse, and Mamardashvili definitely falls into that category. Ramsdale, I have a lot of people ask about Ramsdale, but if you look at the way that, I don't think he's an upgrade on Pope.
No,
but if you look at, I don't think that Eddie Howe will want to deal with a personality like Ramsdale's dad. Who fucking hell, man. He's in the papers every day, questioning Arteta and this, that, and the other. He's probably the only Arsenal supporter that said that the ball didn't go over the line. But he's just, I just don't see it with Ramsdale. I'd be very, very surprised.
I'm going to throw another name that people have been mentioning in the chat.
That's probably my
fault. Definitely not. Absolutely no interest at all. No, he made his bed now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
I agree. Just moving along, I'm just going to flip through some names here because we've got some names.
Go for it.
And there's been links. Don't know if you know too much about this. Transfer.com. We're linked with Jared Braithwaite. He's obviously been sought after by a lot of teams. Obviously, Everton rate him highly. There was talks that after this tweet that came out, I think Everton were saying 90 million they wanted. Just crazy money. But his contract, I think, until 2027. So it's not like we can get him on the cheap. But
he signed a new contract last month. And there was whispers in the summer of it, all right, because Lewis Hall, I don't think Lewis Hall is going to be the long-term left back because his attacking output is just too good. I see him as being maybe an 8 or a winger or, something along the lines of that, because his attacking ability is too good to have him restricted left back. It's almost keeping the same with fucking Trent at Liverpool. His influence on the ball is too much to have him in that position. Eddie Howe really likes having a big physical back four. Manager's obsession with getting the back four mix at the moment is crazy. Look how much Arsenal are investing in it. Look at Guardiola at Man City. If you look at him, say, 2 years ago to now, the amount of money he's investing in getting that defensive unit right is unbelievable. And a lot of clubs are looking at playing that centre back and left back. It's a profile that they're definitely looking for. Somebody to play left back that's a big unit like Dan Burn, competent enough on the ball that you can push Lewis Hall forward. But I don't think it's something that they're going to look for in January. Well, absolutely not. They turned down, they were quoting 50 million from in the summer for Manchester United, then he signed a new contract. So, look, a lot of hot wind around that one, but he's a player they like, but definitely not in January.
Interesting. I'm just gonna fleet around here. Let's go back to striker. This one came out today. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, list of potential targets for next summer. To be fair to him, since he's been fit and he's been playing for Everton, he's looked back to sort of his best. But you think we're gonna go for a player like that?
Lads, he's an excellent striker. If you offered me, if you said, take down Calvert-Lewin, fully focused, injury-free, I'd say write a blank check, because he is so well rounded.
Injury-free, yeah.
Injury-free. His skill set is incredible. People forget the level he was at before he started getting injured. Crazy talented. If you were to offer me a fully fit Calvert-Lewin, I'd snap your hand off him. People forget very fast in football. Very, very good player. Unique skill set, very well rounded, quick, excellent in the air, can take the ball on both feet, can turn both sides. Talented player, man. Fuck, what a waste of talent.
Another one that's talented, doing really well in the Bundesliga. I love this picture. Victor Boniface having a really good start to season. Getting a lot of attention, huge amounts of attention, and rightly so. Because he's hit the ground running, although Graham Bailey doesn't think so. But who cares? We'll think about Victor Boniface, not necessarily for Newcastle, but just in general.
We could have had him very easily. A lot of clubs could have had him. He was being offered around for 20 million. But again, like Hodgson probably the year previous, a lot of clubs were offering him, but they want him to make that next move before they pounced on him just to see. Hodgson went to Atlanta. Fantastic player. Look like he'll be a great player in the Premier League as well. And much like Boniface, he was after one good season, really, in a decent enough league, and no club would take the risk on him. And Newcastle, we passed on the opportunity to do it. A lot of clubs did, and Leverkusen took the chance. If you watch him play, he's not a flash in the pan. He has a different level. He's a really, really good striker.
Reminds me of Demba Ba. Movement, the way he manipulates the ball.
Yeah.
I said it to these boys, he just reminds me so much of him. And we haven't had another Demba Ba since Demba Ba left. He was such a good player for us, such a quality player. And I just think
crazy.
We just haven't had that since. And he was kind of, Victor Boniface, he tends to kind of drift off to the left as well. He doesn't start on the left, but he tends to drift off a little bit like Isaac. And plays his football out there, but he's got the ability and the pace and the power to kind of move into the middle.
I can't see him signing a striker. Being honest with you, I think it is going to be somebody in that kind of Victor Gariakis mold.
Could you see him potentially come in?
Absolutely, I could in the
summer.
I could, yeah.
You obviously mentioned about the potential of Wilson moving on. That would be an odds-on striker.
Ashworth knows him well, knows the background with him. He knows it from Bournemouth, they are from Brighton, sorry. We've extensively scouted him at Coventry, went to a lot of games and watched him. He made a move to Portugal, and are kind of let's sit back and have a look and see how he develops in a league like that. He will be excellent in that Newcastle team, Hopefully Isaac puts those injuries behind him, and starts to kind of kick on now. But they're not going to spend 60, 70, 80 million on a striker when, if Isaac is fit, there's not many strikers in the world start ahead of him. So you need that flexibility, much like we're seeing now, with 12 players out injured, we still have the flexibility to go to Old Trafford and fucking batter them, Granted, Bournemouth was just probably a step too far, but...
Sean, do you think, I know obviously at the moment we've got Isaac and we've got Wilson, and they're your two predominant strikers. And then you're saying about us maybe bringing in a third striker who isn't necessarily an out-and-out striker, but somebody who can kind of play anywhere across the front three. Do you think as and when Wilson leaves, do you think Eddie Howe will go for an out-and-out striker, given that, you've then got your two, so you've got your Isaac as your main one, the young up-and-coming one, and then you've got that floater?
I think if he does bring in, it'll be most like Leandro, where he's a young Brazilian up-and-coming player. It won't be somebody to directly challenge Isaac. It will be very much probably a young up-and-coming striker, and then they will sign somebody who is seasoned, 23, 24 years of age, can play across the front three, and if Isaac is out, he can play that leading role. I think kind of is probably going to be no surprise, but obviously right side, the centre back. They're going to look at a centre midfielder, and they're really keen on a left-footed right winger, and that's the areas for improvement. What will they bring in January? I'm told they will go for it in January, but that they will look to bring in one big signing and a loan player.
One big signing, Rooney Badashi.
I said I have about 2 years ago. Was it not summer gone, the summer previous? He had representatives on Tyneside. He's had to change it to CA base now recently. So definite interest there. We have held talks with him. We've held talks with his representatives, family, everything. So it's his choice, I'd say.
Wouldn't be too expensive either.
No, I wouldn't know.
Expensive to get him out there.
He's come out and said he wants to go to Real Madrid eventually as well.
Hey, everyone wants to play at Real Madrid. Doesn't mean you're going to play there.
Well, that could be a stepping stone club, though.
Why not fulfill all of his wildest dreams in the black and white at Newcastle, eh? Why not? I just wanted to say, just before we get any more questions in, massive thanks to everyone in the chat. We have been marking questions and putting things in. A huge thank you to Damon Bruton, gifted one loaded mag NUFC membership. So another loaded mag ultra in the house. That is for sure. And we thanked him for that. Ferdinand Kumsen all the way from Ghana watching the show. I
Hey,
don't
welcome.
think we've had someone watching from Ghana before, so yeah, welcome. Welcome. Hope you are well. Hope you subscribed as well. And I have to say, we had just under, and it was probably about 15 minutes ago, checked, we had under 100 likes. Come on, we've got 400 in the chat, people. You know it makes sense. Click the like, and we've had loads of new people in the chat tonight, putting brilliant comments in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. You know it makes sense. Come on, people. And of course, didn't realize, happy birthday, Geordie Toon for life.
Hey, happy birthday.
NUFC, big follower of the channel, follows is all around as well on socials and all the rest of it. So huge thank you to you. Hope you're having a good night, a beer, feet up, watching the boys chat away all things Newcastle United. So I just wanted to get those in. And Fernand's come back and said, thank you, Lodi Mag. I'm happy to be here. Away the lads, get in. Sorry. Before I forget, we had a super chat. And you might as well answer this question, Sean. It was from one from earlier. Sean, why does Eddie Howe want Calvin Phillips when he has issues? Because I think something you might have touched on earlier on in the show.
Again, I just think he suits the system, but how, again, it doesn't make it does and it doesn't make sense to me. When you watch the Bournemouth game, you see where it makes sense. Bringing in that player that can take that pass, that can allow players to get turned, is huge. The thing as well is that Eddie Howe, he doesn't like his midfielders playing the ball long. He wants to send the backs through that. There's ways to get players turned, and our whole system is set up. Take that pass back, get players turned and move it. When you have Lascelles and you have Shah, who's done it excellently a few times, but a lot of times pushed onto his left foot, when you're missing Botman, and when Trippier's pinned in a bit like that, and Guimaraes is out, the likes of Joelinton, Willock, Longstaff, they just can't play that role. So there's not many players that can receive the ball like Phillips can and just recycle it easily. Find that next pass, get players turned. So it makes sense for the here and now. Long term, I don't see it. There's a few flaws that I see to the transfer rumor, but again, I can and I can't see sense in it. To answer the question, tactically, where does he fit in? I'd love to see Bruno as a high pressing 8. I think it would be incredible, and also if you're bringing in Calvin Phillips and if you have Bruno, say, on the left side of the tree, and you integrate Lewis Hall into the team, there's a lot of protection around him there, and then you bring Sven Botman back in because he's playing left back without a left-footed centre back, which is a big implication there as well, because Shah is naturally drifting 10 yards in because he naturally finds himself in that position. So you're adding that balance around bringing a young player into the team as well. So, and Phillips has a lot of experience. Well, people look at his injury record, it was a lot around the shoulder, which he's, after getting the surgery on it, that it shouldn't actually come at him again or shouldn't be an issue. So if you're looking at Calvin Phillips in his Leeds days, I'd snap your hand off him. I think people have forgotten how good he is because he's warming the bench at Man City for so long. I think go on, go for it.
No, so you finish first, Sean.
No, you're grand. Go on, because I go on for another rant for another 10 minutes.
No, I was just going to say on Toon Tactics TV, or as I call him, Mr. Toontastic. I was chatting to him there. He has a channel as well, so go subscribe. I think it's Phil. I haven't properly watched his videos yet, but we might get him on at a later date. But just go give him a sub as well. Thanks for the donation.
Next question.
There's a few players to throw out here. Another one, Nico Williams. His contract's out at the end of the season. A player that I think we've looked at before. Plays on the wing.
They have looked at him. My thinking around it is that inverted wingers, Eddie Howe, does he add another one to the left side? I know he's a right-footed player, but I can't imagine him adding. I think if he's going to spend money, he's going to spend money on a left-footed player or a pocket player like somebody like Gibbs Whitish. A lot of people talking about Emile Smith-Rowe. A lot of very, very well contacted people. Excellent player. a lot of question marks around this knee injury, and I don't think Arsenal are going to do any money with us anytime soon.
Yeah, that's true. Another one, Jonathan Tah.
I can't see it now. No.
No, for Jonathan Tah. This was another one that came out earlier. Carlo Iniato, Newcastle thinking of moving forward for the start in January, fully aware they need 60 million euros to sign him.
They have watched him, but I just don't think he has the physical profile. Being honest with you, I think
more a Diamande then. It would be more suited.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Diamande needs probably another year or two in the Portuguese league to develop.
One of our favourites, not having a great season at the moment. I've got to be honest. Ryan Cherky.
I think we can say his attitude rules him out. You know,
he's not behaved. Sorry, he's not behaved the best this season with Leon, has he?
He's a bad egg.
Yeah, he's caused a number of problems, and they are well on to get relegated this season. So potentially people could get excited by getting a cheap deal if they were to be languishing down there. I don't think they'll get relegated, but
I think we could look at a player I think would suit the system superbly is Kakara.
Yes,
for Leon. I love him. You know, I know they've looked at him, and I know they were close to kind of getting into negotiations from there last year. And they have looked at him. They've looked at that deal a few times. They worry about his physical profile and stuff like that. But man, he's fucking like, he reminds me a bit of kind of Caballero, the way he's just like, remember after the West Ham game when Shearer said like, it's like Nokia 3210s playing against an iPhone, like he's just on that different level, wavelength altogether. That's what he is. If you watch him play, he's like 3 passes ahead. You know, I think he'd be excellent in that role, but again, I just worry about his physicality and what Eddie Howe wants. Like, it's like Eddie Howe 6 foot mags, like.
And he Maxine Coqueret, he knows Bruno's game. Because before Bruno, he was playing really well, linking with Bruno and Paqueta, just before he left, because at times it was sort of Lucas Paqueta in the 10, Bruno in the 8, Maxine Coqueret, and a little bit like what we do with Sean Longstaff. You know, that kind of natural transition in the game. Yeah. That's what Coqueret and Bruno Guimaraes were doing really well. You had Coqueret in there, and I think, how was Coqueret? Is he not 24?
He will be, yeah.
23, 24. He's still really young.
He burst on the scene against Man City there. The fucking performance was phenomenal. Like, I think it was against Fernandinho. Like, he just ran the show. They couldn't lay a glove on him, you know.
I hadn't thought about Coqueret yet.
No, he's one he'd be one I'd love, to be honest with you. If you were to offer me probably 3 players in the morning to come in and make a big impact right here, right now, I'd say Kakara, Gibbs White, and Anderson. I'd say they'd be the ones I pick. I hope Dan Ashworth is watching.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just.
He told me he watched the last one.
Well, there you go. Eddie Howe's in there. Hi, Eddie. Love you. Love you. No. I never put him on the screen. You and said no. Message received. Guys, I'm going to throw just some random players in the chat. And I say random players, they're not really, but there were some interesting ones, actually. Just before that, Johnny Mars, great to have you in there. Loves Sean's gossip, loves the chat. With all
this is factual.
Casey.
Gossip.
Gossip? Me?
Well, with everyone else, it's what's the news? What's the gossip? What do we know? Yeah. There we go. This is the conversation. Craig Lee, always great in the chat. Rafinha.
Yeah, you know, there you go. That's your inverted right winger there, like, isn't it?
I'll be honest with you. I don't know how. I've not really watched a lot of Barcelona this season. I don't know how he's been getting on. I don't know if anyone else knows.
If you look at him when he was at Leeds and how he cut onto his left foot and stuff like that, like, you know.
But I've just thought in terms of has he been regularly playing this season? Because I don't actually know.
I think he was injured for a bit. I haven't paid much attention to him either, you know. I barely get in Newcastle games these days. So
yeah,
my son is starting to get interested now, which is good. He's 5, so he's starting to play football and coaching his team down now at the moment. So he's starting to get interested. So my daughter's 2.5 and she's starting to get into it. So she'd be sitting there on the couch just randomly shouting Newcastle were 2-0 down against Bournemouth. I was fusing. She was like, come on, Newcastle's. I was like, jumping all over me. I was like, but anyway, the joys of it.
Good fun.
Tom Dixon threw in one. We've already talked about Mamadashvili as well, but and Tom King coming.
Yeah, so it's I actually would have put out yesterday about Newcastle kind of extensively been scouting Cheltenham at the moment, and Danny probably can't put his username on here because it's a bit offensive and there might be young ears. It's something about a big botman, anyway. So it's he was saying that he's actually been like he kind of works as a scout as well. So he was saying he was been at Cheltenham games, and they have excellent young talent there at the moment. So I think we probably could see a couple of moves from Cheltenham to Newcastle. They've been to almost nearly everyone their under 18 games, and ages under that as well. Like, so Tom King is one that's standing out at the moment.
Interesting. Keep an eye on that bad boy. This is what I want all your opinions on, because this is very, very interesting and not surprising, by the way. It's from Rich Dublin. So welcome, Rich. Thank you for your question. Anyone hear Carragher moaning about Tonali ban and how he shouldn't be allowed to get Neves as a replacement? Neves talk again. More tears dropping off the top table of English football. What? Shawn, we'll come to you first. What are your thoughts? Daz, Chris, boys, I want your opinions on this as well. I don't know if you've seen it or watched it. The overlap always put a little something out each week. And Carragher loves Newcastle when he's in St. James's Park. Can't talk about it as well enough. When he's out of St. James's Park, talks us down all the time. But Shawn, what are your thoughts on that, man?
They get such an easy ride as well when they come there, isn't it? Like the people that go in there, they get fucking starstruck, like, and they're afraid to actually question them, like, Oh man, sometimes I've watched like 1 or 2 of these shows where they're in the audience and stuff like that, and I'm cringing, like I'm like, ask a fucking real question, like, But anyway, it's funny, isn't it? Like, he's like, if you make a mistake, you need to be punished, and that's that. This is the same fella that spat in the girl's face and he was crying saying, "I need forgiveness." Do you get me? So it's a bit fucking ironic, like, isn't it? Like, we didn't make a mistake. Like, how do you test if somebody's a gambler or not? Put a ball between two people and say, what's that? And if he says evens, he's a gambler. If he says 50-50, he's not. Fucking hell, like, how'd you do that? Like, there's absolutely no way. Like, you're talking, this fella was being primed for captain of Italy, captain of AC Milan, like the boy of Serie A Italian football. Like, no dirt with him, settled down, absolutely everything going from, like, his dad's a carpenter, he working family, I think it's all blown out of proportion anyway, myself, and I'm going to get sidetracked here. So if you want to go and get a cup of tea, I'm going to fucking rant for about 5 minutes. Like, with the Tonali stuff, right? The club didn't know, right? When he went to Italy and he disclosed the information or whatever like that, I don't think he realized how much information they had on him. This isn't just me that made this up to say that he didn't have it. Martin Hardy in the Times and a couple of others said that the club were shocked to hear that he admitted to the transfer allegations or to the gambling allegations. I also think it's probably blown out of proportion. I hate when people apologize when they get caught, in the sense of, like, it's like, oh no, I got like there's this big outcry about it and stuff like that, and gambling addiction is just as bad as drinking and this, that, and the other, but it sounds like he just had a little bit of a flutter, and like he was actually gambling on himself out of what would you say, superstition. So they're saying that, like, he was gambling on himself because he thought if he didn't gamble on himself, he wasn't going to win. So he'd have to put a bet on his team winning, otherwise he didn't feel prepared for the game. There's some people touch the grass, they jump backwards, going onto the pitch and stuff like that. His superstition was based around betting on himself. He never bet against himself, like, and that's what came out in it. And this is stuff that will come in a year or so's time or whatever like that. Like, but that's what it was. The club didn't know about it. They didn't know about it even before he went to Italy and stuff like that. He covered up a bit, and he was shocked, I'd say, to find out what the club actually, what they did have on him. The fella that dug up the dirt was good at what he done.
It's mad. Look, Daz, I come to you. It's mad that, like, there's so much fume out there from opposition fan people in the media. They hate the fact that we're big, that we're relevant, and that we're going places, and their clubs are not. Going back to this Tonali situation and the Ruben Neves situation, Jamie Carragher says, and Sean sort of touched on it, that Newcastle didn't do their due diligence. Like, what do you make of that? Personally, I don't agree with it.
But like, who asked him? Who asked him what would you do? You know, like if you look at it, nobody said, okay, what would you do, and how would you perform the due diligence to capture gambling?
Yeah.
You know, like it's a non-story, but they'll keep on regurgitating it because it's just after the international break and they have nothing else to talk about. You know, and it's like Newcastle are the story. We react in droves, you know, and everything is, the world is against us. Like it's we're the makers of our own downfall as well, like, aren't we? You know, we kind of create the situation as well sometimes because we get so rattled and react so much. People are just going to put up there for the clicks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, look at move on. I don't really care what Carragher says on this, and I echo what Sean said. The whole spitting out the window at a girl when he's driving that time, and the begging for forgiveness, and this is where it comes back, and he's talking about Tonali now.
On the flip side, you have fucking that other hypocrite as well, Gary Neville. He goes on the overlap and he talks about, like, you know, like football clubs should be run like this and the Glazers out and all this kind of stuff. Yet he's in bed with your man, what's his name, Lim, is it, that owns Valencia, and he's absolutely ran Valencia into the ground. Probably the worst football club owner in the history of Spain. And he's preaching about how to own a football club. Do you get me? Another fucking hypocrite, like. And he's getting upstaged by fucking 2 Hollywood actors and fucking in the English lower leagues, for fuck's sake.
Well, there you go. Because Ryan Reynolds, I can't remember the other guy's name, but Ryan Reynolds, and what they're doing at Wrexham is absolutely outstanding. Always on the accumulator because they always get goals. But no, Wrexham they're up there. They're in the playoff places, and there is a genuine chance that they could be playing League One football next season. And you're absolutely right, Sean, because if Wrexham get promoted back to back, which is what everyone thought Salford were doing, and we had literally, thank you, Rob McClenny, Stu's put on there in the chat. If they get back to back, and Sky did all of these documentaries on Salford and their build and their growth, and the Wrexham just come along and go boom, boom, double back promotions, and they get into League One. Surely questions got to be asked of Gary Neville, because let's face it, he is being held as this lower league, you know, legend, and knows how to kind of navigate a club and own a club and direct a club in the right direction and build and all the rest of it. And Ryan Reynolds has just gone and done this and absolutely smashed it out of the park. And
brilliant,
I hope they do. They've got some good players, and they play some lovely football at times. They really do.
I think we're all Wrexham fans, aren't we? Loaded mag Wrexham style.
Why not?
I'll have to start making up Wrexham rumours now.
Ferdinand is just put on here, and he's not the only one. There's a few that have dropped this name in.
Do you know what? It's
cost a fortune.
They've been to, like, they've scouted Leverkusen extensively for the past 2 years and not moved for a single player. You know, even after the Abbey was ruled out, they still watch him, you know, almost fucking week in, week out, and still not moved on a player. You know, could he be an option? Absolutely, but I can't see him going to Munich either with Musala as well there, you know. Like, I think he's definitely someone that they look at. Like, you know, I haven't heard anything concrete, just that they've scouted Leverkusen a lot, like, you know, putting 2 and 2 together, you know. Maybe it is.
Could he be your mystery man?
Maybe he could be, yeah. You know, but I can't imagine. No, he can't actually. Leverkusen won't sell. They're doing too well. You know,
in China, yeah.
I would put money on Xabi Alonso being the Bayern Munich manager, though.
What about Real Madrid when Ancelotti leaves?
Who blinks first? You know, like Munich. If you look at it, Munich will. If you do well at Munich, they'll stick you there for years. If you do well at Real Madrid, they'll kick you out after 2 years. You know,
true.
Onana from Everton.
Yeah,
You've fighting before.
Yeah, they watch him a lot at Lille. Don't really have much reports of him since he's been at Everton. I think he's only starting to kick on now. And I think Everton will probably be crazy to sell him in January, especially with the deduction as well. Like.
Yeah.
But yeah, good player, isn't he? Nice skill set, like, and really developing. I think if he stays there this year, I think next year you could have a real problem on your hands. Playing against Everton with Onana there, he's everywhere.
Definitely. Barry, don't get me excited about second for Fofana. Don't. I've had my fill of him tonight. But another one, Lloyd Kelly. We talked about
Kelly,
him.
We did.
Bailey.
The contract is running down, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and he fits that profile, doesn't he, as well? 6'3", tall, athletic, perfect in the Dan Burn role, like Thomas had pointed out, and I would have said it back on my first show, which I listened back to recently. I was actually listening to the show thinking, Jesus Christ, that fella talks a lot of sense. And it was me. I couldn't believe it. Sounded familiar, but he's one that Eddie Howe pitched almost every transfer window, but I just wonder, are his injuries getting a bit too much? He hasn't had a steady run of games in a long, long time. But yeah, I wouldn't rule him out. January, cheap option, fills that fucking Dan Burn role. Dan Burn, I would have put out a message there today saying that his progress is going better than expected. I think it's that the injury isn't as bad as it was first feared, but he'd still probably be out till January. I think it was February, March was the original date, but I say I'm probably still talking late January when you see him.
Boys, I'm going to ask you this question, all of you. Is this now with what Shawn said, and obviously we're expecting him to be out till January and maybe beyond with Dan Burn. Is this the period now where someone else takes his spot, just like he did with Matt Target at the beginning of the season? Is this the moment now where the transition happens with Dan Burn and someone comes in January, or someone comes in, plays really well, throw a name out, Team in a Livramento, for example, starts to play really well and commands a place, whether it's right back, Trippier left back, or vice versa? Is this the moment where Dan Burn gets transitioned out? What are your thoughts? Whoever wants to go first, go first.
You go first, Chris.
Yeah, potentially, and I think that's why we saw such disappointment and frustration when Matty Target pulled up, because you saw him banging the floor, and I think it's because he knew that was his opportunity, that was his chance to kind of get his place back. And obviously, if Matty Target was playing now, and we'd had a few clean sheets, picked up a few important results, I think Eddie Howe may start looking more favourably on Matty Target, but he knew that was his opportunity gone, and now he's back in the queue, so to speak, because Lewis Hall's going to now get this opportunity. Assuming we don't bring in another left back, I don't think we will, because I think we've got far too many. So I think it's a great opportunity for Lewis Hall. Obviously, we're going to see either Trippier or Livramento playing left back at the weekend against Chelsea, most likely. But yeah, it's definitely an opportunity for someone to stamp the mark on it, and then it's up to Dan Burn to try and get back in the team.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a combination of it's going to be Trippier and Livramento. Livramento can't be left out. I think he's too good now. And then whoever ends up in a left back spot, he needs to take someone off between Trippier and Livramento. Hall will come in the place and get some game time as well. But whether Hall is up to where he wants him to be by the time Dan Burn comes back, I'm not so sure. So I think Dan Burn might slip back into it again.
If we don't sign somebody like Anderson with that heading ability in January, there's absolutely, if Dan Burn is fit, he's probably the first name on the team sheet. Dan Burn covers corners, attacking corners, defending corners. He is so important. He can't be displaced. If he's fit, he's playing. He's one of the first names on the team sheet.
Well, it'll be interesting to see.
When you have somebody as meticulous as Eddie Howe, you have to factor in all these things. What's the trade-off in heading ability and press resistance and short passing, long passing? Where's my variability? There's a matrix that you almost have to go through to understand what he's going to do and when he's going to do it. Yeah. I'm going to be going there in 5. So if you want a rapid fire buzz around there from the comments.
We are going to do just that. But first, very, very quickly, Richard, all the way from Kingston, Jamaica. Get in there. Say hello to our Jamaican Geordie, Dan Lawless. Tell him we're going to get him back on very, very soon. But all the way from Jamaica. I tell you what, we're going far and wide.
We're worldwide tonight, lads, aren't we?
Yeah.
I heard I'm actually very, very popular in Jamaica.
You're bringing them for all angles, Sean.
I was there once, like, you know, so I'm bound to know a few Jamaicans, like.
As long as you're popular in Longford, Sean.
I'm in Central Parks next week. If anybody's up there, there's any Newcastle fans, I'll be there for the PSG game on Tuesday night.
There you go.
My mom is bringing me up, obviously, because I live in my mom's basement, you know.
Wash the socks.
Watch the socks.
Drive there and get a Happy Meal on the way.
Absolutely.
Still Amos, one of our spanners, gave us the stats on Rafinha. So, 9 matches, 2 goals, 1. This is not great, but we know what Eddie Howe can do. Ask Sean how he thinks the Champions League has gone so far. Quick opinion on that one.
I thought we were very unlucky against Dortmund. You know, I think if we won the 2 games, we would have said we deserved it. You know, I think it could have went either way. And let's be honest, I think we were done by clinical finishing in both games, and it just showed a difference. What I will say is that probably, I'd say Ademi produced the best performance I have seen from a player against Newcastle under Eddie Howe in that game in Dortmund. He was absolutely incredible. He fucking pressed the life out of us. Unbelievable. Best performance I've seen. But yeah, you know, I still think we can do it. You know, draw away to PSG and beat AC Milan at home.
Let's do it. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Sean, Alan said, in your opinion, will we have to sell, say, Bruno, I think he's referring to, in a year or 2 to comply with FFP?
Yes, natural part of progression.
The 360 million net as we're starting from the bottom. What are your thoughts on that, fella?
I think that, look, the thing about it is, when people talk about the FFP and players like that, and they say, oh, you sell a player for, like, so, like, for example, like when you sell, say, or if you sell Joe Willock, you can sign 5 players because it gives you this flexibility, you know. So if you sell a player for, like, you need to be able to sell 50 million worth of players every summer, you know, to facilitate this transfer. You know, people saying, oh, we sold Maxi for 25 million, so that allowed us to spend 100 million. Not really, because that 25 million is only real in that summer. You know, you need to spend that 25 million in every summer to facilitate it. You know, so Newcastle, when we get to a position where we have to get to a position like Chelsea and Man City, where they're able to spend sell between 50 and 100 million every summer of talent, that's when you start competing. When we can sell 50 to 100 million worth of talent every year, that's when you're competing. That's the level that you have to get to. So if it's Bruno, it will be, you know, he'll probably get a move to a Barcelona or a club like that, like, you know. And look, we'll move on from it. You know, where we are going, we can't afford to be kind of getting nostalgic about players.
We've already answered this question about Ryan Cherky, but I just wanted to put it on there for Senk. Thank you very much. Donald, why would there be a loan fee with owning clubs paying the wages out of the question? Surely that's the perk of a dual ownership.
It's not classified under dual ownership at the moment. There are 2 separate umbrellas. So there's Newcastle and there's the 4 Saudi clubs. If they bring them under one umbrella, then it becomes a different story.
How difficult is that to do?
Not difficult at all. You know, I can imagine there's some logical reason why they're not doing it, but I reckon it may be something that they look at now. You know, because this ruling has gone in, I think they'll wait until after the independent regulator comes in and something is set in stone. The independent regulator has to come in and bring to the table structure and organization. So once she puts in a set of rules, that set of rules will stay in place for years to come. They want to see what those set of rules are.
Sean, just to nip in with a question very, very quickly. Who do you think is the next big-ish player to leave Newcastle? Or as well, who do you think is likely to go in January? Who would be your one player where you go, they could go? Obviously, I'm not saying you're saying they will go, but...
In January, I honestly don't know. I don't think we have any sellable assets. I could see a window where Lascelles goes to Palace and Anderson comes to us, and there's a little bit of a financial trade-off there, whereas they already have young talent there. Lascelles is 30, his contract's going up, maybe it knocks maybe 5-10 million off the transfer fee, maybe something sensible along the lines like that. Makes sense, doesn't it? This Irish fella talks good lingo.
Not a 40 million, man, though. You're still paying 40 million for him. No way.
A couple of quick ones. Turin Murphy, really good
Close.
striker.
I think if we didn't get Isaac, he was probably a backup option yet.
Van der Ven.
No.
Let's move on. There was one here. It was a two-part, really. Stu Ramos says, "How much do you think we actually have to spend in January? Have any of the recent commercial deals helped us at all? Loads of need to clever or to box clever, I think he's trying to say. But it's the cash to spend." And he also says, "How much do you think we'll actually spend in January?" So how much do we think we've got to spend?
Oh man, it's kind of like
actually the second question, to be fair.
It's like
easier.
How long's a piece of string, It's kind of, as I said earlier, you could have 30 million to spend, right? That could be your budget. But much like he's saying with these sponsorship deals and stuff like that, that gives us more flexibility to structure deals going forward. So you could have 30 million in cash reserve, but you could spend 100 million worth of players. So your budget, some clubs talk about budget as in like they'll allocate 100 million to each window, right? Newcastle talk about budget as in how much cash they have to spend. So how much cash reserves are there for the club to actually spend? So you could be around the 30 million mark, which that's what I told they had left in January. They had around 30 million come to the end of the window. If they didn't sign Lewis Hall, they were actually looking at from Leverkusen, the left back, because after leave him, Colombian, play centre back and left back.
Oh, with a H, I forgot the name. Oh my god.
It's late in the day now. I'm after doing about a 14-hour shift already before coming on here. So anyway,
no, it begins with P. H and P is in these initials.
Yeah,
that's another one I will say. Is Palacios, the centre midfielder for Leverkusen, is somebody who was very, very, very high on the agenda, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's for somebody that they would have moved for instead of Phillips. Mark that one down. So yeah, I forget the fucking name. It's going to annoy me. I'll think about it straight away after we log off. But yeah, I was told they had about 30 million in cash left to spend. So how that stretches in January and structure deals and stuff like that, let's see.
I'm going to find that name now. It's going to.
There it is. There it is. This is the guy.
Hincapi.
Hincapi. Yeah. Yeah, it was going to annoy me too, so I'm glad you put that out there. Rumors of Kraft leaving in January, going back to Sweden. True?
Yeah, there could be truth in that. He's on a lot of money, lads. He's 55 grand a week, like. That's one of our highest earners.
Xavi Simons?
No, sure, he's linked already he's gone back to PSG.
He's a quality player. Any left-footed attacking players linked?
I suppose you have Bakayoko, who's in PSV. You'd have Kubo, who they've looked at, and you have Rafinha.
Bakayoko's young, but he's going to go for big money because
he's young. He's probably in that second year of Minte's development.
Yeah, and he's doing well as well. Korbal. What was it? Korbal? I think it's Korbal. For Dortmund, he was brilliant against us, particularly at St. James's Park. Would you consider him as goalkeeper?
Excellent, Jeff. Fucking excellent. So well rounded. He reminds me of Alisson, a younger version of Alisson. I wouldn't be surprised if he's brought in as the keeper to replace Alisson, to be honest.
Baz says, is there any info on sponsorship deals? I assume that's meant to say for the ground. Not sure.
Nothing really. It's all gone a bit quiet. Like with sponsorship. I know what I'll be honest with you, I haven't chased it that much. It's one of these things I know it's coming and I don't need to be first with the news. I've kind of lost that interest at the moment. But it's in the background there,
What? Look at this. You're not the same guy. I used to know if that's the
case. I just haven't chased it as hard as I used to.
Lisa's put any talks about Newcastle's legal action against AC Milan. There has been a few murmurs.
They have. Absolutely, yeah. They have looked at it, yeah, they'll need to find out, like, because, like, yeah, they will need to find out if they knew beforehand, because so in October, I would have kind of said it to Pete about our interest in Tonali and stuff like that, and that AC Milan were kind of pushing back on the move and stuff, and then out of nowhere he became available. Sounds a bit dodgy, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Lewis Miley, what your thoughts?
Excellent. I think they needed to put more trust in him in the Bournemouth game, because he was phenomenal. I thought he was brilliant. He didn't make a single mistake, but they just didn't trust him enough.
Definitely. Thomas had already mentioned the man, Nkape.
I don't think they'll probably spend that much money straight up on him. I think they'll probably focus the money elsewhere. You know, let Lewis Hall develop and then probably push him further up. You know, I think he has a few defensive kinks that he needs to iron out, and then they'll push him forward a bit.
We've got pictures of this guy because we talked about him before. He is 27 though. Grassi.
Sure, he's going to be going to the African Nations Cup.
He will be. You're right.
You know, so it doesn't seem like, and it seems like more of a kind of flash in the pan sign. It doesn't look like something that we usually do. I've heard nothing on him, to be honest with you. Yeah, definitely somebody they've looked at, but that's a very like for like competitive with kind of Isaac. I think if Isaac has the season he should have this year and then next year again, you're probably the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona will sniff around him, and then Sesko comes into play.
And last one from me, Anderson, 40 million, no way. Why not go for Delete at Bayern Munich? Buy this guy, dream signing, but he would be a hell of a signing alongside Sven Botman. And Senk says, get Sven Botman to contact Delete and get him in 50 million, 60 million euros, potential, 24 years old. It would be a great signing if it could happen.
It would. I can't see it though.
Nah,
lads, I'm going to leave you on that.
That was it.
See you later.
Thanks for joining the show, Sean, and enjoy the toy show.
A pleasure as always. Good luck.
Thanks, Sean.
Take care, mate.
Always great to get Sean and give us his some of his insights. And one thing I'm surprised about is that he kind of more or less ruled out all those Saudi links. That was the big shocker for me. But stay tuned because we've got our loaded draw coming up as well. Maybe we'll do that now. We can summarize then. That's because I will forget it otherwise. You know what I'm like? Members draw next.
I just put it on there now. I just thought members draw next, but then you said it, and I was like, okay, we'll still drop it on there anyway. Members draw is coming. What I just want to say before we go to the members draw is Lisa's put on the chat about Jakube Minter because he's had an interview with Newcastle tonight that's been put out. And Lisa said, basically, he said he used to be a fan of Hatton Ben Arthur, Chrissy Hall.
Love him.
Will you please?
Love him.
He said when he was at Newcastle, he enjoyed the way he played. I like Demba Ba. He might also like another player as well, who's currently playing at Leverkusen, but who knows? And Pape Cisse too. But now I'm looking up to Miguel Almiron, a winger I like myself, who plays in a very similar position. My main strengths are as a footballer is my pace. I'm able to run quite fast and I like to dribble, beating defenders in one-on-one situations, scoring goals. Dribbling is one of the things I enjoy. And
can you use your right foot, Yanuba? That's what I'd like to know.
I thought this was Lisa that was saying this. I was like, sign her up. We need her for the loaded team if that's the case. Lisa. Pizza mute.
Sorry, I was coughing. That's why I said get into training now. March is coming around very shortly. So yeah, come and join us. But there were just some thoughts on Jakube Minter. Let's get to the draw. I'm excited.
Chris, talk us through this.
Yes. So this, believe it or not, guys, this is the members draw following the Arsenal win. Anyone who was a keen viewer of the channel will know that I said, if we beat Arsenal, let's do a members draw. And then I cried off, went off sick. and that's why we didn't do a members draw. So now I'm back. We've beaten Arsenal. Yes, we've lost to Bournemouth, but we won't talk about that. We were due a members draw, so we decided to do a members draw. And what I also wanted to highlight as well, this is going to be a £50 club voucher. But what I also wanted to mention is, obviously, most of you will know it is Black Friday tomorrow. And we heard that the Newcastle United Pro shirt for this current season, so the Newcastle United home shirt, is currently on sale from £115 all the way down to, you guessed it, £50. So what a fantastic Christmas present that would be for somebody. So we thought, let's do this members draw that was long overdue after the Arsenal game, and fingers crossed to everybody in the draw. And for laughs, I do hope one of us wins it, and then we have to spin it again because I do love the spinny wheel. So let's see how we get on. But yeah, Daz, hit that wheel. I love the loads of mag in the middle. Is that a new thing?
Yeah.
Daz?
Yeah, I just new laptop, so I just set it up right before the show. I'm laughing at the ads that are popping up the side. There's bikinis and everything popping up there, and Black Friday deals. But
Well,
let's go. Here we go.
You can buy a bikini if you want. Up to you.
Yeah, the club shop.
20% off.
I
Extra.
can't see. Who is it? Baker Boy.
Baker Boy in
Baker
UFC.
Boy in before, yeah.
Baker
I've seen
Boy.
Baker Boy in before, yeah. I don't think he won before, but I don't think he's won before, but I've seen him in the chat before.
Yeah.
Baker, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Baker Boy. Brilliant.
Congratulations. Nice one.
Reach out to us, Baker Boy, and we'll get you that voucher sent over ASAP.
What are we saying? A week? You give them a week's grace, and then
Give
if
them a
not,
week's grace.
you throw it back in for the other
Absolutely.
members.
Yeah, so he's got Baker Boy. Yeah, Baker Boy, you have got until the 30th of November. And fingers crossed you get in touch with us by then. And then obviously we'll ping that voucher over to you. But congratulations.
You know what to do.
Nice
You know
one.
what to do. It's not a great age. You know what to do. Get involved.
Yes. Yes.
Any last thoughts, lads, before we round up the show?
Just a few things. Like, I want to get your opinions on this. I don't know if you've seen it. Julie Tune for Life. Happy birthday, by the way. We've said it before. But Paul Parker, ex-Man United, won't be happy if Anderson signs. He said, why would he move to Newcastle? He lives in a lovely area in London. That was an article that was put out the other day. Well, it might have been today, in fact. I did see this. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you straight away. Again, it's more slant. I don't think I mentioned about the Jamie Carragher thing before. It's all these ex-players, all these people with a narrative for Sky Sports, whatever. And as soon as they come away from it, they then basically say whatever they want. And for me, it's just pure jealousy. Like, I'm not being funny. I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but I regularly travel to London, and I would live in Newcastle every day of the week over London. So for Paul Parker to come out and say that, which he shouldn't anyway, but for him to come out and say that, it's just disrespectful to the club. And wasn't he a legend in the Northwest with Manchester United? So why have a slant on the North? Do you know what I mean? Yes, I'm not saying where he lives in Palace isn't nice, but he's coming to play football. He's not coming to live, in a city. He's coming to play football, and any football player would want to come and play for Newcastle United. So it's just loads of rubbish.
For me, I've been to 3 places in the UK. No, I've been to 4. But I've been to London once. That was enough. I've been to Manchester twice. I've been to Newcastle about 8 times, I'd say. Maybe 7 times, something like that. But yeah, one place I'd like to go is Newcastle. Just even in the second last time I was there, not with you guys, but I got to walk around everywhere, and it was just amazing. I was so I'd never seen the most of the city until that second last time I was there. So yeah, it's a winner for me, Newcastle.
There's not many places in this country that I enjoy being.
You love coming to Goodison with me, Pete. You love coming to Goodison.
You know what? I actually really do enjoy being in Liverpool.
Liverpool's great, mate. It is great, honestly.
The
It's
people
a
in
lovely city.
Liverpool remind me so much of Newcastle. Lovely, genuine people.
Yeah.
The nights out there are superb. Brilliant place. for me, and it's all because of my wife, because she was brought up there for a few years. I love Cornwall, love going to Cornwall, spending some time down there. You find like you're away from all the hustle and bustle of the country and of the world. It is pretty much very much cut off from everywhere else. Lovely, lovely place to be. And then for me, it's not even Leicester where I live. It's Newcastle. Honestly, I keep saying it, and I don't say it by chance. Like me and my wife talk genuinely about moving up to Newcastle every single year. And if our little ones were a little bit older, we'd already be there now. 110%. It is the most welcoming city in the country, easily. And I'll be honest with you, the further away from London for me, the better. I don't like London. I don't enjoy it. I go there to watch football and that's it. My mates go on nights out and shopping days and all the rest of it there. They're like, yeah, I don't want to come. I'm like, yeah. Is the football on? Nah, I'm not going. And that's just the reality. Like, yeah, I'm not leaving. But yeah, Newcastle, honestly, I genuinely feel like I'm home. Last time I went up there was for the PSG game. Obviously, I'm not a season ticket holder, so I don't get many tickets for games now, unless I'm in the ballot. But the ballot's difficult because I have to kind of plan in advance, and when you've got kids, it's not easy to do. But I was lucky enough to get a ticket for the PSG game, and driving up there and seeing the Angels of the North, and I just feel like I'm at home. As soon as I see that, I'm not even in the city yet.
I'm the same.
I've never seen it.
And the sign for Scotch Corner. I don't know why.
When we meet up again, boys, we need to go to the Angel. Yeah. I've never actually been to the Angel.
Oh no, I've been.
Okay. I've never been to it. I've been. I mean, over the 30 years I've supported the club, I've never been to the Angel of the North whilst I've been in Newcastle. But I think we should go.
Maybe March.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. I think we should go in together and kind of experience it, because whenever I see it from a distance, I always take a picture of it. I always feel like I'm at home, there's just such an ease with being in Newcastle and living there. It's just an amazing place, amazing place, and I love it. And can't wait to go back. Can't wait to be back up there. But yeah, that was the Paul Parker. Paul Parker is an ex-Man United player. Why is he talking about Newcastle? Jealousy. They're worried. This is from Stu. Is Barnes ahead of schedule? I'm not going to lie. There's a fingers crossed here that he's in the squad on Saturday. I'm not even going to lie. I think I'm not expecting him to start, but I would love. I think that there would be a huge boost if Barnes was named in the squad along with the likes of Longstaff, Miggy, Isak. Imagine him being added to that as an option off the bench. That would be a huge boost for the team in what is a big game.
I thought Chris was going to put Tonali into the squad yesterday in the way days. I was sure.
Hey, I'm telling you, honestly, it was dead funny that when I read that. It was dead weird because, like, every week I'm always like, yeah, but I'm not going to say Dan Burn because I think it'll be Lewis Hall or I think it'll be, Livramento or whatever. And then the one week I'm like that, and I went, I think it'll be Dan Burn. And then everyone was like, what? I was like, oh shit, yeah. He's like gone till February. Yeah, sorry about that. And yeah, I was tempted to say Hall, but yeah, I just don't know. I don't know where my mind went. It just went.
Definitely. One here, sticking with away days. Chris, the Merseyside moneymaker, is a potential name. We had, I think I kind of dubbed you the accumulator. There could be many other names. There was Avon the accumulator.
Maybe that one once I've got the wins, once I've got the W's.
Yeah,
maybe I can have that.
The W's back up the name.
You've got to get the W's. Yeah,
like a Mayweather, isn't it? Like a money Mayweather.
Brighton, by the way, guys, I've said it. I think Brighton are a fantastic price this weekend. So I would recommend everyone, if you're gonna have a little bet or you're gonna put an accumulator on, stick Brighton in it. Brighton are away to Nottingham Forest, and they're currently 23-20, and that's fantastic odds for me.
Stick with that. Away days, we'll be coming back with more more predictions, more opinions on where the winner could potentially be. And lastly, interestingly, so I was lucky enough to be a part of online the We Are United event yesterday, where Eddie Howe, Shodan Miobi, Matthew Raisbeck hosted the show, and there was Becky Langley as well. And they were talking about the club, answering questions, talking about the future of the club. I didn't quite hear this bit because obviously we had a show, so I had to kind of disappear to make sure I was available for away days. But yeah, there was talk that there are plans afoot for the extension of St James's Park. And whether Saint says we need a new stadium that's 75,000 capacity, I don't believe we're going to get a new stadium. But what do you make of the talk that plans are afoot for an extension of St James's Park? What are your thoughts on that, and what do you think would be the ideal capacity that they could do at this current moment at St James's Park?
You on mute, Daz?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's not me. I'm the only one who hasn't done it. Hey, saying that we haven't finished the show yet, so I won't go.
Yeah, the simple answer for me, and it's a selfish one, is whatever allows me to be able to get a ticket whenever I would like to go, or are able to go. So whatever makes that happen, I'm all on for that.
Yeah, 100%. What about you, Chris?
Bigger the better, mate. Bigger the better. I mean, obviously, for me, I think I said a while back, and I'll stick by what I said. I love St James's Park. I love the location and everything, but things move on, players move on, times move on, and I still think if they announced that they were going to do a new stadium, I'm not going to lie, I'd be excited. I mean, I've been with UP, I've been to the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I constantly drive past the new Everton Stadium, Bramley Moor Dock, and it just looks brilliant. And don't get me wrong, I love St James's Park. I love the nostalgia of it, and I think it's in a great location. But sometimes times have to move on. Now, if we're going to stay at St James's Park, that's a bonus. I'm really happy with that. And they've already done great stuff on the stadium and really improved things. And I'm sure they've got more improvements to make. But yeah, I think 75. I mean, some people may say that's a bit too high. But for me, I think that's an extra 23,000. And I think quite comfortably, we would definitely have people interested. And the more that these Saudi links grow, I think you could find that there'll be more, more fans from Saudi Arabia who would take the opportunity to come up to Newcastle, especially with the link with Saudi, who are now going to do direct flights. So I think we'd easily fill 23,000 extra. So yeah, 75 sounds about right to me. And the sooner the better, in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah,
Lads,
I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. I was just going to say maybe we give a quick shout out to the sponsors because I forget it otherwise. And feel free to throw up pictures here, lads. But shout out to H2O Bathroom Design Co., the Northeast's largest supplier of Velcro and Botch bathroomware. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate, Gateshead. As Pete is showing the beautiful bathrooms that are available, and I'm sure are definitely at this stage, because these pictures are probably 6 months old. They probably have updated the showrooms as they normally do, and they're bigger and better. Some quality stuff. Also, shout out to Russ on the radiatorshed.com. And Russ is, as you know, you've seen them range of various different types of radiators, but he also now has an online brochure you can download as well from the site and get all the latest and greatest. And he's also has opened another wing of the business as well for trade. Customers. So if you're a plumber, you can get some kind of discounts there as well. So go contact Russ at the radiatorshed.com, and he will sort you out, no doubt. And mention Noted, and you never know what kind of a discount you might get. Cool. Lads, I think that is it for the night. We're just over the 2 hours. I think. Thanks to everyone for sticking with us. Make sure you hit that like button as well on the way out. Great to get some season, new faces, new names in the chat as well. Sorry, Pete.
No, I was going to say we've got over 10 subs tonight. Let's try and make it 20 before we head out. So anyone that hasn't yet subbed to the channel, let's make it a cool 20 plus before we get out of there. 10 tonight, over 10. And I think we've got about 150 likes. So come on, we've got 250 in the chat. Let's get that to 250 right now and click the likes. And it helps with all the algorithms, all the housekeeping stuff that we talk about. But look, we appreciate you all being a part of the show, and great questions, great opinions, great conversation in the chat as always, and we've been able to try and get through as many as we could tonight. So thank you for your continued support.
Exactly, and great to have Shawn on. And Shawn will come back again, don't you worry. Especially if we sign someone that he mentioned, he'll definitely jump back on. Yeah, we're back. We're probably not on tomorrow, but unless something major happens. But we're back on Saturday night for the reaction to the Chelsea game. So join us for that. One thing left to say. How do you like that? Good night, everyone. Take care.
Drink it, like weed and tell me you like that.